This is a classic NFL moment where perception, timing, and small sample performance collide to create outsized reactions. Shedeur Sanders' sudden preseason spark forces a real conversation. Is this a flash that accelerates his path up the depth chart, or is it a useful but ultimately limited audition that the Browns should treat exactly like that? One data point in a long evaluation. The stakes are real for Kenny Pickett, a former first rounder who arrives with starting experience and roughly $14 million in career earnings, and for the Browns' roster construction more broadly. First, separate signal from noise. Sanders' preseason start and his 2 TD performance were meaningful because they combined accuracy, composure, and situational poise in a live environment. That's not nothing. Showing that you can manage the pocket, operate the offense, and deliver in the red zone matters. But preseason defenses are mixed quality. Starters sit out large chunks of reps, and coaching staffs often script scenarios that favor a young passer. For evaluation purposes, a standout preseason game increases opportunity and attention. It rarely by itself changes front office calculus unless backed by consistent practice tape, repeatable traits, and medical availability. Pickett's position is precarious, but not doomed. He's a young veteran with starting tape and a body of work from the Steelers. That matters in 2 ways. 1, teams prefer known quantities when deciding how many quarterbacks to carry. And 2, Pickett represents sunk draft capital and developmental upside that the Browns already invested in. The Browns' predicament is logistical. 4 quarterbacks is an uncommon carry, but it isn't unheard of when the team values developmental runways, injury insurance, and trade transaction flexibility. The decision won't be purely meritocratic on one game. It will be shaped by contract situations, special teams' value of retained players, and the team's appetite for in-season quarterback churn. Roster math is brutal and unforgiving. Carrying 4 QBs means using a valuable spot that could otherwise go to a depth defender, offensive lineman, or an extra special teams contributor. The Browns must weigh the marginal utility of a 4th quarterback against positional needs. If Pickett proves healthy and can reliably run first-team periods, and he can flash in joint practices and the remaining preseason game, that substantially increases his odds of making the roster. Conversely, if Sanders returns to form in practice, the Browns face a real choice between holding a seasoned Joe Flacco as a veteran stopgap and promoting the younger, cheaper option. Cost control and team timeline tilt toward younger assets, but coaching trust and in-game experience tilt back to veterans. Injuries and timing matter more than narratives. Sanders' preseason ascent was aided by injuries to other QBs, the exact kind of chaotic opening that creates opportunities. But the flip side is that injuries also compress evaluation windows. If Sanders misses snaps because of a minor shoulder or oblique issue, his chance to build the longitudinal tape the staff wants shrinks. That's the practical consequence. Fewer live reps mean the staff leans on prior film, practice work, and trusted veterans. Pickett's eventual availability and performance in the next practices and preseason game will be decisive. So will the coach's internal grading on things fans don't always see: processing speed, audible handling, third down reads, red zone footwork, and turnover tendencies. From a schematic and coaching perspective, Kevin Stefanski must balance player development with roster prudence. The smart path is phased exposure. Reward Sanders with reps and scripted drives that probe decision-making, not just completion percentage. Let him run tempo and 2-minute situations where read decision-making is tested, while keeping a veteran like Flacco in reserve to shepherd the team if needed. If Pickett returns fully, evaluate all 3 challengers across the same situations to avoid recency bias. The Browns have to build their Week 1 plan, but remain flexible to in-season pivots. That's how developmental QB journeys typically succeed. There are also market and long-term considerations. If Sanders demonstrates consistent processing and throws in joint practices, his trade value or practice squad candidacy changes. Other teams will covet a proven, young, mobile QB with starter traits. Conversely, cutting Pickett would be reputationally sensitive but not unheard of. NFL teams cut veterans all the time when cheaper, younger options outperform them. The Browns should be mindful that a misstep, promoting a rookie prematurely, or keeping an underperforming veteran out of stubbornness can be costly in a tight AFC. Fan expectations complicate the picture. The public wants a clean narrative. Sanders slipped in the draft, so naturally he should be elevated quickly. But NFL decision-making is conservative for good reason. The Browns' staff is tasked with maximizing wins this season while managing long-term development. That often looks slow to an impatient fan base. If Sanders is genuinely the future, the coaching staff will find ways to accelerate his learning curve without forcing him prematurely into game situations that risk confidence and team performance. Bottom line, Shedeur's preseason performance buys him attention and additional reps. It does not, by itself, guarantee a jump past Pickett. The Browns should reward the play with increased practice reps, targeted preseason looks, and a transparent internal grading rubric. Pickett's fate will hinge on health and how convincingly he reclaims or retains the coach's trust over the next week. For neutral observers, the fairest takeaway is to let the process play out. The Browns need to make a roster decision that balances immediate competitiveness, long-term upside, and real injury insurance. If Sanders keeps producing in practices and live action, he'll force their hand. If not, experience and known quantities will likely carry the day. When the Cleveland Browns brought in Kenny Pickett this offseason, it felt like a pragmatic, low-risk move with upside. Pickett, a former first-round pick who's already tasted playoff success and roughly $14 million in career earnings, was supposed to be a steady win-now option who could compete for the backup job and maybe push for more if circumstances demanded. Instead, August has turned into Shedeur Sanders month. Sanders, the fifth-round rookie out of Colorado who tumbled inexplicably through the draft, grabbed the spotlight in his very first preseason chance. Thrust into the starting role against the Carolina Panthers because of a cascade of injuries and veteran rest, Sanders played nearly 3 quarters and made a statement. 14 completions on 23 attempts, 138 yards, and 2 touchdown passes, no turnovers, plus the kind of composure you want to see in a young signal caller stepping into chaos. For a player who arrived at camp with limited first-team reps, that performance was impossible to ignore. Why does that matter? Football is both paychecks and opportunity. Pickett comes with draft pedigree and a reasonable track record, but he was acquired in a trade that didn't break the bank for Cleveland. Sanders, meanwhile, costs the team almost nothing in salary and control. A 4-year rookie deal with a low cap hit. If 2 players are close in ability during camp, teams often favor the cheaper and longer controlled option. In that calculus, a rookie who starts to look like a legitimate NFL player can flip the script fast. There are other practical factors working in Sanders' favor. Injuries have shuffled reps and created windows, and Sanders made the most of his. The Browns' brass already confirmed the offense will keep developing its young players, and coaches tend to respect live game production. A strong preseason showing can accelerate trust in practice plans, play calling, and rep allotments. Conversely, Pickett has had a quieter camp, and while he's certainly not out of the running, the margin for error narrows when a rookie outperforms expectations on tape and in the box score. That said, this isn't a done deal. Joe Flacco is the veteran presumed starter, and Dillon Gabriel, a day 2 pick, is a piece the organization also wants to protect and evaluate. The Browns are juggling development, short-term competence, and roster construction. Keeping 4 quarterbacks is unconventional but not impossible. The team could carry extra arms through cuts if they believe in someone's upside enough. Pickett's experience and the team's investment in Gabriel complicate any simplistic cut him narrative. Bottom line, Sanders' explosive and very public preseason debut cratered the neat narrative the Browns carried into camp. For Pickett, the messaging is now simple but urgent. Show up in practices and in upcoming preseason work, or risk becoming the odd man out. For Cleveland, the decision will come down to tape, health, special teams value, and long-term planning. And for fans, August just got a lot more interesting. A cheap rookie performance has forced the Browns to choose between immediate comfort and a potentially higher ceiling.